My name is Janelle Codiani. I'm the Executive Director at ātac, formerly Amazing Things Art Center. We're in downtown Framingham in the old firehouse. You may have noticed a new mural we have on our front doors. We're still remote, but we're keeping the building alive. And this series is Process. It's a series of artist talks. We've had artists of all kinds on the show. And they're just speaking to a part of their process, their general process, a process in a specific project that's interesting to them. As I was saying to Rebecca before we were getting settled, it's just really interesting to me. And I'm glad you're all here to indulge it, because it's been really, really interesting and rewarding to hear people speak to how they create, how they finish things, how they don't finish things, all of these different parts of the process. And so that's what this series is. ātac in general, if you're not familiar with the organization, we're a small theater. We're a visual and performing arts center. Typically in the before times, we have live shows, music, comedy, other performances, small scale theater, storytelling. We have 3 galleries, 2 on site and 1 that we do in collaboration with Exhibit A Brewing, a local brewery. And I'm gonna let somebody else in here. And we have memberships and all other ways for, of course, you to support us. We are a nonprofit arts organization. And let me tell you what it's like right now. Just kidding, I won't. We all wanna have a fun time. So if you are interested in seeing about the other programs that we have, you can check out our website at atac160.org. We just this week launched our virtual venue. And so now all of our shows will be streamed for free, embedded in our website. It's not a matter of getting this link or that link or going to this platform. It's all right on the website. So it makes it very, very easy to access. And if you yourself are a creator and you would like to be a part of this process, definitely reach out to us. You can contact me through the website and let us know what you're interested in. And so with that, that's us, that's ātac. I'm going to read Rebecca's bio for you and introduce you to her if you don't know her already. And then we're gonna get started. Oh, I forgot to tell you something important. An important part is that you can ask questions. There will be a portion of the time after her talk where you can ask questions and get feedback. And also for those of you in Facebook, I will be monitoring the chat there as well. And so if you have questions you put in there, I'll bring them back into this space. If you feel nervous about asking questions out loud or it feels hard to jump in, you can put them in the chat and I can relay them all out. So that's an important part. All right. Rebecca McGee Tuck is a fiber artist, a sculptor, and a collector of lost objects. After a 25-year hiatus from art school to raise her family, Tuck earned her BFA from Massachusetts College of Art and Design in 2019. Her work is a visual narrative of what she accumulates from a throwaway society, and as a result, she gives new life to what others discard. Tuck has shown her work in multiple juried shows throughout New England, including the Beacon Gallery and the Attleboro Arts Museum. She has recently been selected to be an associate's member of the Boston Sculpture Gallery. Tuck works among her menagerie of debris from her studio at the Mill Contemporary Art Studios in Framingham. Rebecca McGee Tuck is a fiber artist.
Oh,
it's double. It's double. See, I'm just like reading along. So with that, I would like to present Rebecca.
Hello, everybody. I have to apologize. There's a little bit of noise. I'm in my studio and there's other working artists here. So you might hear some hammering or things like that in the background. So hello, thank you, Janelle, and thank you to ātac for the opportunity to speak with everybody during the Process series. I'm going to be looking down every once in a while because I wrote notes so I stay on track and I don't, forget things or anything like that. So I'm Rebecca McGee Tuck, and I'm a found object sculptor, a fiber artist, a weaver, a welder. So literally a jack of all trades, but really a master of none. And I will give you a little outline of what I'm going to be talking about the next 30 minutes. And I'm going to try to talk slowly, and I'm always nervous, so I'll just do my best here. So I'm going to give you an idea of my background, and I'm going to talk about the beginning of 2020, where I was at in January. And then I'm going to talk about how I made my way through the weeds during the stay-at-home order. And I'm going to bring you up to date about what's happening in my art life, including taking a look around my studio. And at the end, I'll take any questions or comments that you have. If you think of anything while I'm talking, you could put it in the chat, and Janelle will get them to me. So, I love trash. My favorite saying, growing up, we would always go to this place that had a big sign outside of it. There was like an antique store, and it had a big sign that said, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And it's really a motto for me, and I should have it written up on my studio wall because I think about it all the time. And trash is really, if you're seeing around me, everything is made of trash. And so I went to Massachusetts College of Art in 1990, but I didn't graduate until 2019. I took a 25-year gap to raise my family, and then I reapplied in 2016, and I got to walk in 2019, which was really awesome. And I got a BFA in sculpture, so that was cool. And as soon as I graduated, I hit the ground running. I became determined to make up for lost time and do everything I could to make it to my goals of living and working as a full-time artist. I rented a studio here at the Mill Contemporary Art Studios. It's at the Saxonville Mills in Framingham, and along with a bunch of other artists. So I'm surrounded by art, which is one of my goals. And then I started to figure out how to keep myself on the right path to creativity and motivation. So I guess I'm going to start with January 2020. It began good. And so I was 6 months into my studio, and I made myself a personal schedule that I was sticking to. I would spend about like an hour in the morning with coffee, and I would like write proposals or search for art calls. I would look at other artists' websites and find any artist meetups or workshops that were offered by art associations. I joined 3 that were nearby me. Arts Worcester, Cambridge Art Association, and Newton Arts Association. And I just took advantage of all the things that they had to offer. Art, like people were meeting up and there were shows, and it was going really well. Then I would go to my studio, and though I had no show or crit to work towards, I learned how to make my own assignments. I would go to like Cafe Call and Submittable and find an art call that would inspire me to create something. And I would make it and I'd submit it. And like 1 out of 5 times it would be successful, but that one time was awesome. And the other times that I didn't make it, it was also like a motivation to, you know, to try again or to submit it somewhere else or something like that. And so the winter of 2020 was going great. I had a sculpture accepted into an internationally juried show at the Beacon Gallery in SOA, which was cool. And I had pieces lined up in shows through April. I was inspired in my studio and had lots of work happening. Then March. So at an opening on March 10th, things were getting weird, as we all know, and COVID was creeping in on all of our lives. Things sped up on March 17th. We were all notified here at the Mill that we couldn't work in our studios anymore because we were non-essential. I don't agree with that, but you know, we really weren't. But anyway, I couldn't go into my studio anymore. And so I had to go, I had a day to go in and mask up and grab whatever I needed for who knows how long. 2 weeks, forever. I didn't know. So I came in here and I grabbed my sewing machine, wire, fabric, collage making stuff, scissors, things like that, and put it in my car and moved them home into the only room available, not being used as an office or a makeshift classroom for one of my teenagers, the dining room. So the dining room became my new studio. And I guess in a bit, when I give you a tour of my studio, you're going to understand why I have a studio and how come my dining room isn't a long-term option for a found object sculptor to work in for very long. So I'm a pack rat and I collect things. I collect a lot, and it was going to become a problem. So with everything closed and we were all staying at home because of the order and because of fear, I had to rethink how I was going to continue to work. I started collecting within my house, because I would find like a bag of outgrown clothes from my kids, material. I would find old books and tchotchkes I never used, material. I would go up in the attic. I found my Aunt Lynn's oil paintings that were up in the attic for years that she painted in art school in the 70s, a material. And that was my new collection. I was adapting my material collections. Now, how would I adapt my opportunity searches? Of course, there were no more art calls. All the galleries were closed. All the shows that I would have been in the spring were either canceled or moved to next year. And I found a spark of inspiration in the town of Natick where I live. Some artists were putting together a community art project that was called Love 01760. And basically, you'd print off a heart at home and a half heart at home, and you'd color it or collage it. And then eventually you drop it in their mail slot, and then eventually they would connect them together so that all the people in our town would be like together while apart. And it was a really nice project. And how did this inspire me? Well, got me doing something creative, and I had my family helping out, and eventually I moved to volunteering, putting it together. And then eventually they asked me to make one for the police department. And then I started helping them put it up. And it felt really good to do something in the desert of nothingness, of no interaction with other artists. So it was a bright spot. I'm a firm believer too that everything leads to some other opportunity. So I was just taking whatever I can get. Pardon me. So the next inspiration spark for me was, it's kind of weird, but it's strangely a giant garbage bag full of yarn. So my neighbor had been cleaning out her garage and her closets, and like we all kind of were, because we're stuck in the house and we're organizing, and and she came over with this big bag of yarn and asked me if I wanted it. Now, I don't usually work with yarn, but the colors generally are ones I wouldn't choose, but now it was in my dining room, and it was a new challenge, and I figured I'd find something to do with it. So let's see, what did I do with it? Oh, yes. I learned to knit, finger knit on YouTube. And then every night while watching the stressful news or whatever we were watching, I committed to finger knitting 3 to 4 6-foot lengths of finger knits every single night for a month. So now I had a beginning. I guess I'd never really counted them, but seems like hundreds of finger knits that I didn't know what to do with, but maybe I would. So I guess that brings me to something I call beginnings. And this is my side note. Beginnings are what I kind of work on when I have no plan, like 100 finger knits, or basket weaving of found fishing rope, or trying something new like plaster, which I don't usually work with. I start something without a plan and then put it aside until I figure out what to do with it. So, I was gonna bring this over and I'm gonna show you what I did with 100 finger knits. Bear with me, I'm gonna try not to make you sick. So this is 100 finger knits. Each one of them I wired, and then I attached it. I kept attaching it and weaving it through to a chair that I found on the side of the road. There's some tights that are filled with pillow stuffing. And to me, it kind of reminds me of like the confusion and the how my head felt during that time in March and April. And it also kind of reminds me of a COVID-19 molecule, I guess. And it's actually the first thing that I started and finished while I was in my dining room studio. So it's a little different, but it was because of the materials I collected. All right. How am I doing? Good? All right. So anyway, another thing that happened during the stay-at-home order was I found another way to collect. And I was using social media to collect. I was seeing on Facebook sites, people were cleaning, like I had said, getting rid of things, posting on Facebook, on Free Cycle, moms groups, yard sale groups. Pardon me, I was getting sorry. And one person put up a question asking whether or not anybody wanted their formal living room curtains. And I raised my hand, yes, put on my mask, drove to their house and where she left them at the end of her driveway. And from the curtains, I got so many raw materials. There was wood that they were attached to. There was grommets. There was yards of gold silk and heavy red and blue material. Anyway, all these, again, all the patterns weren't like to my taste normally, but it was a challenge and it became the beginning of my sculpture that I worked on throughout the stay-at-home order, my pandemic house, which is now called Once Upon a Time. And the material, I'm going to show you that in just a second. Hopefully I can do that well, but I wanted to show you it in my studio, but right now it's in a real live show at the Piano Craft Gallery. And you can visit it. It's there until the end of November. But I will show you. I'm going to do the share screen. Figure this out. Can you see everybody? Yeah, okay. So this is my pandemic house. And all the material came from, all the base material came from my house, or mostly from the curtains that I collected from that Facebook group. This front panel here, can you see my cursor? Okay, so the front panel here is, I still get the Boston Globe paper, and I was noticing every Sunday that there was up to 25 pages of obituaries, and it was really hard. And I started collecting them and reading them just in a little way to honor the people or think about them. And so this is, I'll give you a little closer look. This is a quilt of all the obituaries that I collected during that time. This here is a side view where these are all clothes that represents my family who I was living with. We're all together through the whole stay-at-home order. Here's my son and his partner, and my husband, my other son, my daughter, and me. And so it's just clothes that represent them, give a feeling of them. And these are 180 coffee filters from a accidental purchase on Amazon that I had in my house. And it kind of represents the monotony of every day, making coffee, and it's the same, you know. Here's a little close-up of the clothes. I did a little embroidery on each of them. Side. Try not to go too fast, but I hope you get a chance to go take a look at it. This is a weaving I made. Up here is some of the these are sheets that were in my donation pile. Caution tape that was in the basement. This is more material from the curtains and a weaving somebody gave me. And these are all gloves that were used every time we'd go to the grocery store. So everything from the house. And then George Floyd was murdered. And these two panels were in response to the political unrest and the systemic racism we're all experiencing. So it became, obviously, like you could see how everything within this house was affected by the day-to-day during the pandemic. Let me see if I stop the share. So, pardon me again. Yeah, so each panel was inspired by events that we were living through: monotony, racial injustice, COVID deaths, being stuck at home. Anyway, soon the weather calmed down. It was getting nicer out, and I was able to start back up with my beach trash collecting, which is my favorite thing to do. Walking the rack line and picking up what I find, trash. And I learned that from my dad, who's on this up here in the Zoom. Hello, Mom and Dad. I would drive to Humrock Beach in Scituate several times a week, collecting in canvas bags or sometimes with a beach cart. And thankfully in June, my studio opened up because I draw the line at storing sea debris in my dining room. Now I clean it and I leave it out in the sun to dry out, but still didn't want it sitting in my dining room. You know, maybe the dog would pee on it or whatever, it would just smell, I don't know. And so anyway, I'm back in my studio, little by little, you know, as when we got more comfortable, a little bit at a time. It was right about this time that I found out that some of my January proposal work had panned out big time. I was notified that I won the Present Tense Award and a solo show hosted by Arts Worcester. It was amazing and very exciting. And now I have new goals, and thank you, new goals and a deadline. And I needed to up my collection at the beach and plan 10 to 14 sculptures and get to work. So I'm installing it actually next Friday, and the show is going to be December 3rd to January 31st. And I hope that you can come and just check on my Instagram or my website, and you can get information on the stuff that'll happen with that. I'm going to do probably an artist talk in the gallery. But anyway, taking a breath. One last thing I'd like to talk about before I show you around my studio is because of all of my beach cleanups and working with beach trash, I became more passionate about cleaning up beaches. And I found 70 Mylar balloons in 1 week after July 4th, and just on the beach, tangled up in carcasses of seagulls, in everything. Some of them were just floating, blowing up in the water that we would grab out of the water. It was nuts. And actually you could see behind me what I created with over 150. I'll show you a little closer in a minute, but it's a giant jellyfish made of 150 Mylar balloons that I collected along the beach. Anyway, I found hundreds of plastic bits, beach toys, ropes, lobster traps, everything. And I sought a way to help in a more active way. So I reached out to a group called Surfrider Foundation, and I talked to members of the Massachusetts chapter on their monthly Zoom meeting, asking how I could help and how I could connect my beach collection sculpture with the work that they were doing. And so now, as a part of my upcoming show, by the way, it's called Along the Rack Line. It's made of after viewing my show and seeing all the work that's made entirely of collected beach trash. If you're so inspired, you can donate to Surfrider Mass Chapter, who organizes beach cleanup in our area along our coastlines. And I've made 100 mini sculptures that are kind of like a thank you when you're at the show if you want to donate to the cause of beach cleanup. And I'm also planning on donating a portion of the money for any art that's sold during the show to Surfrider. So that makes me feel good about all the trash that I have anyway. Phew, that was a lot. So now I guess I'm going to check to see if there's any questions before I tour you around my studio, or however.
There's a couple immediate ones. Multiple people want to know, how big is that house?
Oh, it is six feet tall and 8 feet long, and about 4.5 feet wide, maybe 5 feet wide with the base. It's pretty big. I should have taken a picture of myself next to it, but it takes up half my studio almost when it's in here. Thankfully, I made it so it could be taken apart and brought in through a regular door.
That's awesome. The scale got a little bit closer to see with the clothing on it, but I had the same question myself. And then we have another question, which is strangest trash find.
Strangest trash find. Oh, I'll show you. Hang on. Inside here are somebody's dentures. So that is my strangest trash find, right? Quick as that poor person. Should I pick up and walk around the studio, or?
Yeah, that would be great. And I just want to remind everybody, and also I'm paying attention on Facebook as well. So if anybody has any questions, I could bring them as well, and you can pop them in the chat.
Okay, I'm going to do this. No, that's not a gallery. So I guess I could take these off now. So let's give you a pan. This is my studio. It's got very tall ceilings. It's got some nice light during the day, but obviously not now. Now, a lot of the work that's here is all getting ready to go into the show. So it's cleaner than normal for you guys, and for the fact that I'm finished with a lot of stuff. So let's take a little tour and a sneak peek. So, whoops. This here, can you see that? This here is a piece that I made with a candy machine, and it's filled with beach toys that I've collected along the beach. And there's several. Here's a weaving that I made a lot. If you look on my website too, you can see closer up pictures, but this is fun to do anyway. This is a weaving I made out of jeans that I collected from people I know, friends and family. My sister will say that I stole a pair of her jeans and put them in there, but we will never know for sure. Here is the piece right there. I can't point to it because I'm holding the computer, but that's made all of, it's called regarding coral, and it's made out of all sea debris. Here's a piece that's not totally back up. That's just part of it. It's not quite done, but it says all at sea stem the tide and deaden the water, a bunch of things, ocean terms that have to do with the collection of like one-time use plastic water bottles. If you want to take off your mute and ask me to look at anything closer, feel free to, because I'm just kind of winging it. But
does everybody have the ability to unmute themselves? Okay.
Yeah. Here's an example of a piece that I made specifically for a show, and it didn't get in, but here it is, and now it's going to be in my show. This is called Red Tide, and it's made of all red trash that I found. And because I made the red one, I had to make one out of all the yellow trash that I found at the beach. So I guess this one is hard to capture, but it's a 12-foot jellyfish made of all the balloons that I got. And each of the balloons at the bottom is stuffed with more sea debris that I found at the beach. It's pretty cool. I like it. And let's see. Here is a piece I made as like part of my final at art school. This is called 19 Fathoms. And it was kind of my first big, inspired by Lee Bonteque giant piece. So I was talking about oil paintings. So this is one of my Aunt Lynn's oil paintings. And one of the beginnings I made here was I cut it in half and I added a zipper. If you could see it. And then from there, I just kept on building parts to it and adding to it until I became a little obsessed with taking apart old paintings and making them into something new. In fact, there's an old painting of hers on deck, ready to be taken off its frame and cut up.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So does your, I love that you're using somebody's painting. Does your aunt know that you're using her painting?
Yes, she does. And in fact, I thought it was so funny because she saw this one on Facebook and she said, "Oh, I love the colors in that. They remind me of Hieronymus Bosch." And I was like, "Yeah, because you love Hieronymus Bosch and that was from your painting." So it's your color palette. So I love that she noticed it. But yes, she does know. Is there anything? This is a friend of mine gave me this taxidermied bird. So of course it had to be used. This piece is about telling white lies or just little lies anyway. And then recently I just added some doll hair to it for fun. So is there anything anyone would like to see or talk or ask about? You want to see my collection of sea debris? Okay. Here's my library. Right down here, let's see if I could see, is my library of stuff waiting to be used. It's all been washed and left out in the sun. I have, I don't know, things like doilies. I don't know, hundreds of these for some reason. I have lots and lots of cigar boxes. Slides are in them. Some of them have like old pictures. I know one of them has like 25 yarmulkes because somebody gave me 25 leather yarmulkes that just, here they are. And they're leather, so they're good to cut up. And I hope that's not, well, everything is fair game here to cut up. And I don't know, I have yarn, I have paint, and here's my like table of work, like my drills and my wire and things like that. Stuffed underneath are sculptures that I was trying to get out of the way because to have room to walk and things. So I'm pretty packed in here. Oh, I forgot I forgot one thing. My sewing machine, which is kind of like my material welder. I can't weld here at these studios. I have all my welding equipment in my garage at home. So I will weld things there and bring them in here to usually cover with fabric. That's kind of how I work with things. Recently, I just put together this groovy mask. But anyway.
I'm going to give you a couple more comments and questions.
Sure.
This is great. And that's just from me. I'm not reading that one. That's my own. Bonnie said that it's amazing and disturbing. I'm assuming that's the jellyfish. I'm going to look and see if that's a nod.
Or the teeth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That could have been that too. And Anne-Marie says, you know, that she loves the repurposing of paintings. I was curious about if your aunt knew as well, or if if that was done in secret. And then Michelle says, I love seeing the wonderfully beautiful collision of your passion for art and your passion for being a planet protector. And then somebody asked if you did your own welding, just as you were saying that you couldn't do welding in the studio. So that was answered. And then Hillary asked, how long does it take from the idea to a finished piece?
Well, I usually have like many beginnings happening. So it's hard to say. I know for a fact how long it took me to do the pandemic house because it was March and I finished it in September. It was like the whole length of the stay at home or a little bit beyond. So what was that? Five or I don't know. 5 months, whatever, 4 months. And as for the other things, like the painting, I started it a little bit and then I'd put it aside and then I'd start something else. In fact, this piece right here, I do know, I can't really see this piece right here. I was able to go to the not the Lookout Farm, the Natick Community Organic Farm, and they let me go through their trash. And I found all these great windows and parts to tractors. And so I made that piece pretty quickly because I was supposed to have a little show there, and then, you know, everything got messed up. But I would say it's hard to answer. That's my answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer. So, well, Cindy says you're the coolest person that she knows, and and Jake asked if you ever repurpose any of your own work. If you like, does your own work get recannibalized into works? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me think. Oh yeah, I have a great example of that. So this piece right here, that was a different piece altogether. And what happened was I had made this one regarding coral. Where is that? I can't see it up there. Oh geez, this is hard. I've made a piece with bags, like the bait bags, and it was going to be in a show, and I wanted it to be in my solo show. So I took a piece of art that was already made on the wall, and I added bait bags to it to make kind of like another version of regarding coral, because I wasn't really happy with the other one, or it just wasn't exciting anymore. And so now it's kind of like it's eaten the old sculpture and it's a new sculpture. So yes.
A follow-up to that is how do you know when it's finished? And is it ever finished?
Oh, it's finished. When I think awesome, it's finished. Like when my pandemic house was done, I was like, oh my God, that is awesome. So I guess that sounds so, I'm sorry about that, but like when I feel good about it, then it's done. So I feel like the jellyfish is almost done, but I think it'll take me displaying it to tweak it here and there to make it perfect in my head, but it's done when my head says it's done, I guess.
I don't think that requires an apology at all. It's something that I definitely have interfaced with, I guess, with lots of artists. I think that we have this like culturally held idea that we're supposed to be like so always struggling with our work and like and everything being like not quite right and all of these things. And then I know a lot of artists that are like, I love my own work. Like sometimes I go back to my own work for inspiration, and I think that that's really healthy and wonderful, and you know, something that has that much of your heart and passion in it, like should be joyful to a degree. Do you ever get inspired to create something by what you find, or do you have a vision and then you like are looking for that trash to bring it to life?
No, it always starts with an object. Like it always does. I can just, sometimes an object will be sitting in my studio for a while. Like, I don't know, for example, this boar's skull that we found at the beach. That's also another weird thing I found at the beach. I don't know, maybe it'll become part of something. So I usually need to have an object, and I gotta, it'll remind me of something. An object will remind me of something, and I don't know, I just go from there. So
that's a good answer. Here's a question. How did you manage to create art during the quarantine while home with your family? I have a similar question. How did you manage that?
Well, we were all, well, it's in my when I walk down the stairs, my dining room is right there. So in my pajamas all day, sitting at my sewing machine, it felt fine to do that. And because it was all ready to go, it seemed a bit easier to do that. And once I started realizing that I can collect materials at home or on social media or however I was doing it, then I had no need to, I didn't want to like jam up Amazon with ordering something, and I never order anything anyway to use. So I guess it just fit in. I remember sewing all the coffee filters while I was watching, I don't know, Jeopardy or something, or and just do, because it's a mindless thing. There's 180 of them, so just would do other things while I was making, and also telling people to get on their online school and figuring out what's happening for dinner. You know, it worked.
Just like incorporated into the mix of living.
Yeah.
All of it. Do you ever get stuck in what you do when you're, do you ever get stuck in what do you do when you're feeling inspired? And do you think you'll always work with trash? When you're not feeling inspired is what I meant to type. Oh, okay. I guess I could read the whole thing ahead of time. So do you ever get stuck in what do you do when you're not feeling inspired? And do you think you'll always work with trash?
Well, I guess let's be clear. There wasn't every day during the stay at home or during the pandemic wasn't like a productive day. There was Netflix days. There was like crying over a puzzle days. There was like, you know, I don't know, no art days. So like every day wasn't like always working, but I tried not to string those days together. You know, like you try to separate that one day. I totally forgot the question. Am I answering it? I think I am. But I was trying not to string the bad days together.
You did answer a part of it. I think the question is like generally if you're stuck, if you're like not moving through. But earlier you said like sometimes you put stuff down and walk away from it and start something else. That caught my attention. And if you're feeling uninspired, do you like kick yourself back into inspiration somehow, or how does that process work for you?
I usually start by making something like. Meaning just getting my hands moving. I'll crochet something, which I'm not a great crocheter, but I'll try, and I'll do I'll wrap wire. I'll just try to do something that I'll put aside, like those beginnings I was talking about, that I'll make a bunch of them, and then if I have a bunch of them, it seems more likely like it's going to become a sculpture in the future. So even if it's not for something, maybe a bunch of wrapped sticks with wire together maybe later will be interesting. So I guess when I'm uninspired, I'll just try something new.
That's really lovely advice for all kinds of parts of your life. Jake is asking, what is your favorite Thanksgiving side dish?
Well, obviously it's the stuffing. Because my mom makes it.
And then Megan asks, do you use a journal, or do you have somewhere where you jot down your thoughts and design ideas before you begin a building process, or do you just jump in?
I normally jump in. The only thing I write in a journal, I have like this little studio journal that I just kind of jot down notes about what I did that day or what I applied for, or even down to like what hashtags I used on a picture, but just like little notes so I can, but I don't plan anything. It's hard for me to do that. I know that welding seems like it's a thing that you have to plan for, but I'm kind of an art welder, so I don't have to make a tank or anything. So I just kind of fake it till I make it.
I guess along those lines, that just made me think of a question as well. Is like, do you ever get do you ever start building something like, especially a larger piece, where then you need like something more structural, and then have to kind of go back and like rebuild the thing that, like, because collaboratively building, you can like put it all together, but have you ever had like framework issues or anything like that where you had to kind of go back?
Yes, that's when I revert my attention to my father. In fact, I had one piece that was already made, and then my terrible weld broke, and it was already covered with plastic and fiber. And somehow, so I brought it to his welding shop, and I held like pieces of metal over the plastic in a weird way while he precisely welded the thing without setting the whole thing on fire. So there's ways of doing it.
Jake says that they saw your 3 masks in West Concord, and they're amazing. And can you talk about what inspired those?
Oh, well, sure. If you want to see them, you can look on my website. They're 3 masks that were represented. They're called Mare, Terra, and Vento, and they represent Earth, Wind, and the sea. And I made them at the beginning of the in the beginning of the pandemic, when Italy was in quarantine, and I was just thinking about masks of protection for the environment. And they were in an outdoor show in Concord for the last couple of months. I just unfortunately uninstalled them or took them out, and they're sitting in my front yard greeting people now. So.
And that we can see that on your website?
Yeah, I have pictures on my website, and you can also, there's also pictures on, it was at the Art Ramble hosted by Umbrella Arts. They have pictures of it on theirs too.
And then we have another question about another installation. What inspired the installation at Get Outdoors in Concord?
Oh, well, That one is a door that I wanted to make into an interactive door. You can also see that on my website. I wanted it to be where people could like take something and leave something and kind of make it a scavenger hunt that would be fun to find. It's a door. It's a bunch of doors that artists painted, and mine was more of a sculpture where you can it was interactive, but then COVID happened and I had to like pull it back from the touching and the aspects, and I had to like attach things to it. It's still fun, but it wasn't my original vision of like leaving an object and taking an object and writing things in a journal, but it was still fun, and it's still up there till the end of November in West Concord at the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail.
And Hillary asked, can you talk about the Clooney tree? What wishes inspired you? What made you laugh?
Well, the Clooney tree is another series of sculptures I've made. I've made a couple of them now. It's inspired by a Celtic tradition of going to Clooney wells, which were holy places, and people would leave offerings of material like on the tree nearby. And so the Clooney wishing tree, it just became like a thing where I had one Clooney tree at the 2020 graduation for the Natick High School, where I wrote everybody from the high school's name on and had everybody write wishes, and I attached it to the tree and it was part of the ceremony. I have them in my front yard too, waiting to be somewhere. So there's a couple. It's going to be a whole forest of Clooney trees, but they're fun.
That sounds awesome. What tips would you give to someone just starting out making art?
Well, I would suggest joining art associations, because then you'll be in with groups of people like-minded. I guess I would say to look at other people's art, go on other people's websites, go to shows, go to galleries, just kind of meet people and look at their art and ask about their art.
Just so that everybody in the Zoom knows that Jake is coming correct with all of the links. And so if you are interested in any of these, seeing any of these things, there are links in the chat. Jake, you're hired. And so
That's my brother-in-law.
Oh, nice. I think that that's really good advice to be around artists. I know, especially when you're outside of school, it can be really challenging to get feedback and grow from one another. It's like, art school is a really great environment to learn that. And it definitely takes a concerted effort to create that for yourself once you're outside of that environment. I have found in my own life. That's a really great idea. Let's see, I'm going to check the Facebook and see if there's any other questions.
How'd I do, everybody? All right, good.
And everybody is just definitely loving all of the work. These are comments on things. We do have a comment from Diane that says that she's pretty sure you stole all her jeans. And so, but I think you mentioned that in your talk. So if that is your
clean, if I'm going to use your painting or your jeans, I'll come clean.
And Jake also says that Jenny says you look pretty. If anybody has questions that they think of after this and they want to get in touch with you, how do they find you? What's the easiest way?
Well, please follow me. I think it's backwards, but follow me on Instagram, because I always update things about what I'm doing. You can direct message me. You can go to my website and contact me, ask me questions. Yeah, I'm happy to talk to anybody about art, and I'm always open to having people come visit safely, COVID safely, at my studio. So I don't know, that's how, but yeah, follow me, and my website is updated all the time, because I'm weirdly obsessive and about that. And that's how you can see me or hear from me or ask me questions.
Rebecca, thank you so much. And if anybody has any last minute questions while I'm doing this part, don't feel shy. You can pop them in there. This was so great. It was so wonderful to see all of your work and get a chance to see some of it so close up, even though we're so far apart. I'm really excited for all of the things that you have coming up. That is really, I'm glad that things are able to come back together after the shutdowns. And I know, from an administrative side, all of that rescheduling and shows getting pushed out, it is a logistical nightmare. And so I'm really glad that those things are coming together. It's great. And I'm sure that it's a real relief coming out of that time. We do have Barbara saying that Anlin tried to get on and she wasn't able to, so she didn't hear about her paintings. But I'm happy to say that Anlin will be able to see it later if she has access to Facebook. It'll be up recorded there. And so it'll just be in Amazing Things Art Center in our videos. You'll be able to see it there. Also, we're doing a collaboration with Framingham Access TV. And so it'll stream there as well later. So anybody, if you feel like sharing it, if you're interested now and you want to go back and look at some of our other talks, please do. And Rebecca, this was so wonderful, and it is so delightful to see somebody's process and hear about that, and just hear the passion and the interest of all of that. And I love your studio so much. It's so beautiful.
Come on and visit sometime, yeah.
And I have a final question. It's from me. Why Scituate specifically? That's where I grew up.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, Hummerock Beach is just like a secret little gem that seems to be caught back in time. And I love going there. And so it just happens to be across from Boston, and a lot of stuff comes to it. So it's just a magical place. So Hummerock Beach, magical.
Now I have another question about beaches and trash. Did you note it? Like, did you start out looking at a bunch of different beaches and you're like, this beach gets the most trash? And then
well, no, I guess Hull had some good trash because it's also across from Boston. The Cape doesn't have very much because mostly the Cape is on the bay, and the other, I don't usually find very much in the Cape. Mostly I guess across from Boston is where I see the most. Mm-hmm.
That's a really interesting, intimate insight into trash flow to the shore. It's really interesting. Again, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for being here and engaging. Jake, thanks with all those links. That's great. And I'll see you all on the next one. I'm just checking for any last questions. Please share the video with all your friends if you had a good time. I'm sure you did. And have a great night, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.